So how does it happen? How does a small, nomadic tribe on the edge of a crumbling world end up building an empire that lasts for 600 years? Well, today, we're diving into the story of its founder, a man whose vision literally became a world-spanning destiny, Osman I. Okay, so to really get this, we have to go back to 13th century Anatolia. And you gotta picture this place. It wasn't a land of stable kingdoms with clear borders. Not at all. It was a true frontier, a really volatile mix of conflict and opportunity, a place where you could win a fortune or lose everything in a single battle.
And what defines this frontier? Well, it was a massive power vacuum. I mean, look to the west, you've got the Byzantine Empire, which was really just a shadow of its former self. And then to the east, the Seljuk Sultanate was totally collapsing under Mongol pressure. So you have this chaos, and that chaos created the perfect conditions for something new and really powerful to rise right up from the ashes.
And that new power, it was going to emerge from what's known as a beylik. So what is a beylik? Think of it as a small, independent principality. It's kind of part tribal territory, part mini-kingdom, and it's all ruled by a chieftain called a bey. Anatolia at this time was just a patchwork of these little territories, and they were all competing for land and influence. Now, the story of the Ottoman Empire, funnily enough, doesn't actually start with its namesake, Osman. It begins with his father, a guy named Ertugrul, and he's the one who led his small tribe right into the heart of this incredibly volatile land. So, the legend goes like this. Ertugrul is leading his people, the Kayu tribe, and they're basically refugees, looking for a new home after fleeing the Mongol hordes. They get to Anatolia with just a few hundred warriors, and bam! They stumble right into a battle. Now, he has no idea who's fighting whom, but he makes this snap decision that will literally change the course of history. He decides to help the side that's losing.
Talk about a gamble that paid off. Turns out, the army he saved, it belonged to the Seljuk Sultan. And as a thank you, the Sultan grants Ertugrul this small piece of land around the town of Sogut. Now look, it wasn't much, but it was a foothold. It was the very seed from which this massive empire would one day grow.
All right, fast forward to around 1280. Ertugrul dies, and leadership passes to his youngest son. His name was Osman, and this is the guy who's going to take his father's tiny legacy and transform it into a world-changing destiny. You know, Osman was a total product of this chaotic world he was born into. People knew him for his quiet strength, his fierce determination. What he inherited was honestly not much, a poor, tiny beylik surrounded by powerful enemies. But here's the thing, Osman saw something that nobody else did. He saw an opportunity. So what is it? What takes a leader and turns them into a legend? For Osman, it wasn't just about winning another battle. No, it was something much bigger. It was a powerful, prophetic dream. So the story goes, he's staying at the home of this really respected holy man, Sheikh Adibali. And one night, Osman has this absolutely incredible vision. He sees a moon rise from the sheikh's chest and enter his own. And then, a massive tree sprouts from his body, and its shade just stretches out to cover the entire globe. So when Osman tells him about the dream, Sheikh Adibali's interpretation is crystal clear. This was a divine sign, and this prophecy, which we now know as Osman's dream, became so much more than just a personal vision. It became the founding myth of an empire. It was a holy cause that would inspire his followers to fight for this incredible, world-spanning destiny. Okay, so now he's armed with what he believes is a divine mandate, and his ambition just ignites. His actions start to change. We see a shift away from just simple raids to the first real strategic steps of building an empire. And this whole transformation was fueled by a really powerful idea, the concept of Gaza. See, Osman's warriors weren't just raiding for loot anymore. They were now Ghazis, warriors of the faith. They were fighting a holy struggle to expand the borders of Islam. And you can imagine, this powerful creed started attracting fighters from all over Anatolia to join his cause. And man, the victories just started piling up, and fast. In 1288, he gets his first major win. Just a little over a decade later, in 1299, he's feeling strong enough to declare total independence from the Seljuks. I mean, think about that. By the turn of the century, his little beylik was a power you absolutely had to reckon with. But winning battles is one thing, right? Building a state, that's something else entirely. A real ruler needs more than just a tough army. You need institutions, you need symbols, things that declare to the whole world, we are a sovereign power. And Osman took these steps very deliberately. It's like a checklist for statehood. First, he establishes a capital. Then he orders the Friday sermon, a huge symbol of Islamic rule, to be read in his own name. He mints his own coins. That's a classic sign of economic independence. And he appoints his own judge to establish his own legal authority. Every single one of these steps was a clear declaration. The chieftain is gone, a sovereign ruler has arrived.
So you can see his power really rested on this powerful alliance. On one hand, you had the Ghazis, the warriors with the swords, but on the other, you had the holy men, like Sheikh Adabali, and they provided the spiritual justification, the social glue, and even the administrative backbone for this brand new growing state.
But here's the thing that made Osman's whole project truly sustainable. It wasn't just about military might. It wasn't just religious zeal. The real secret? It was his approach to justice.
See, Osman got it. He understood that real stability is built on justice, not just on force. So he forbade random violence. He respected the law. He even gave non-Muslims access to his courts. And what did this do? It made his rule attractive. People weren't just being conquered, they were being integrated into a new and, frankly, more stable order.
So by the year 1300, let's take stock. Osman's domain is no longer just that tiny foothold his father got. It has expanded a lot. It's now a strategic territory that's pressing right up against the last few Byzantine holdings in Anatolia.
This new thing he built, it wasn't a sultanate yet, but it sure wasn't just a tribe anymore. The transformation was totally undeniable. That little seed that his father planted back in Sogut, it had grown into a strong, sovereign state.
And Osman himself, the man, became larger than life. His name, the very name his descendants and their empire would carry for 600 years, it became synonymous with the core values he put in place: strength, faith, and justice.
It's a little bittersweet, though. Osman didn't actually live to see the capture of the great Byzantine city of Bursa. It fell the same year he died. But when his son, Orhan, finally rode into the city, he was greeted with a title that was the ultimate fulfillment of his father's dream: Padishah of the Ottomans, the Emperor, the shadow of Allah on earth. Wow. So in the end, Osman's story really brings us back to that first question. How does it happen? Well, it shows us what's possible when the right person shows up in the right place at exactly the right time. When a totally unshakable dream is forged into reality by a powerful combination of the sword and the spirit.